5:30 p.m. Welcome to tonight's ordinary council meeting. Declaration of opening is made at 5:30 p.m. Members of the public and members online, this is a decision-making evening. We had the forum last week where we had question and answers. Tonight, council has to make a decision on every item presented. Whether it's the officer's recommendation or an alternative, we still have to make a decision. So we are on page 7 of our agenda. So we have item number 2 is opening procedures. 2.1 is acknowledgement of country. On behalf of the Shire of Northam, I, as the Shire President, would like to acknowledge the continuing connection of Aboriginal people to country, culture and community, and embrace the vast Aboriginal cultural diversity throughout Australia. On the land of the Ballabong Noongar and the Whadjuk Noongar people where we meet, we acknowledge and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Item 2.2 is recording of council meetings. Members of council are well aware, and members of the gallery who are also well aware, are advised that this meeting is being live streamed and audio recorded, and it's made available on the Shire of Northam's YouTube channel. If members of the public would like to have access to the recording of this meeting, they can do so via the Shire of Northam website. Item number 3 is attendance. 3.1 is attendees. As per normal, I'll go from left to right and welcome councillors. So welcome Councillor Williams, welcome Councillor Hughes, welcome Councillor Deputy Shire President Menchelli, welcome myself, President Antonio, welcome Councillor Ryan, welcome Councillor Biglan, and welcome to the staff. So we have in attendance the Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Terralink, Executive Manager Engineering Services, Mr. Devsich, Executive Manager Development and Community Services, Mr. Hunt, Executive Manager Corporate Services, Mr. Streets, Manager Governance and Risk, Ms. McCall, Governance and Risk Officer, Ms. Blase, and Manager Planning and Environment, Mr. Farnworth. So welcome all staff. Officers, item 3.2, still on page 7, is apologies, and that is nil. So we go to page 8. We've had item 3.3, approve the leave of absence. Councillor Gierak has been granted a leave of absence from the 4th of July 2026 to 31st of July 2026 inclusive. So that obviously includes tonight. Item 3.4 is absent, that is nil. We go to page 9, so then we've got disclosure of interest, and they are listed on the next page. So what I'll do is I'll read through these, and then as the item comes up, I'll just do a summary of those again. So we have item 3.1.2, which is lease of Village Green, lot 14174 Fitzgerald Street, Northam. President Antonio, that's myself, has declared impartiality. The owner of the property is known to President Antonio. Councillor Menchelli has declared impartiality. The owner of this property is known to Councillor Menchelli. Councillor Ryan has declared impartiality. The owner of the property is known to Councillor Ryan. And Councillor Hughes has declared impartiality. The owner of the property is known to Councillor Hughes. Then we have item 13.3.6, Brown Road Emergency Access Way. President Antonio, that's myself, declared impartiality. The neighbouring property owners are known to President Antonio. Councillor Menchelli declared impartiality. The adjacent owners of the property are known to Councillor Menchelli through their nursery business and his term as councillor. Councillor Williams has declared impartiality. Several neighbouring property owners are known to Councillor Williams, and Councillor Williams has discussed this matter at length with some of the people just mentioned. Councillor Biglan has declared impartiality. Residents near Brown and Olive Road are known to Councillor Biglan. Councillor Hughes has declared impartiality. A neighbouring property owner is known to Councillor Hughes. Then we go to 13.3.7, which is Bushfire Advisory Committee recommendation. President Antonio, that's myself, declared impartiality. The members of the BFAC, Bushfire Advisory Committee, are known to President Antonio. Councillor Menchelli has declared impartiality. Some of the BFAC members are known to Councillor Menchelli. Councillor Williams has declared impartiality. Members of BFAC are known to Councillor Williams, and Councillor Hughes has declared impartiality. some members of BFAC acknowledge Councillor Hughes. Then we have items behind closed doors. So it is summarised there, but I'll go through those in detail when we get to the item. And councillors are well aware, and members of the public, just so you know, as an item comes up, councillors can make a declaration of any sort, as the item comes up before discussion itself. We move to page 11 for item number 5, which is announcements by the presiding member. That's without discussion, so that is as listed and taken as read. So we go to page 14, which is item number 6, public questions. I do want to check with members of the gallery. There's no public questions, so I've just had a no for anyone looking online. Item number 7 is response to previous public questions taken on notice. That is nil. Item number 8 is receiving of petitions, presentations and deputations. 8.1 petitions is nil. 8.2 presentations, very quick one, as I highlighted last week. We have 2 to present to the Shire President, to the CEO for the CEO's office, because the shelves are getting heavy. So we received a certificate from St John. Certificate of appreciation is awarded to the Shire of Northam as a token of our appreciation of your support for the 2026 Wheatbelt North Volunteer and Sub-Regional Recognition Awards. They were held in Mouchet a week and a half ago, so it was fantastic to see, and we've got a good relationship with St John's. We gave them a grant funding for Starlink for connectivity, and it's been so successful that they're rolling out in other councils as well. So that has been the saving grace. So I'd like to present that to the CEO, Shire CEO. And the other one is actually a presentation from myself. I was lucky enough to be invited to the launch of this book, Avon Valley Homesteads. So it's a lot of the historic colonial houses within our shire and other shires. It was written by local Margaret Sermon from Grass Valley and photographed by Andy Rowe, a local photographer. So I acquired 2 books to present to the CEO, one for each of our libraries. So they can go in there to make sure that we're recording some of their history. So I'd like to present those to the CEO. They're not for the CEO's office this time, they are for our libraries. So that's the presentations. 8.3, deputations. Wanted to check with members of the public. No deputations. No, that's a no. So then we're on page 14. So then page 15, we go, item number 9 is applications for leave of absence. That is nil. Item number 10 is confirmation of minutes from the ordinary council meeting held 17th of June 2026. Councillor Hughes is moving. Councillor Mancelli is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands. That's 6-0. That's carried. Then we've got a new item, so it's 10.2. So notes from the council forum meeting held 22nd July 2026. Just want to check if there's any queries or questions about that. It is a new item tonight. No. So I think Councillor Mancelli is moving. Councillor Bigland is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands. That's 6-0, that's carried. Then we go to page 43. I'll make sure we go to page 43. And then we have item 10.3, confirmation of minutes from the special council meeting held 8th of July 2026. Councillor Williams is moving. Councillor Mancelli is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands. That's 6-0, that's carried. Then on the same page we have item number 11, which is items brought forward for the convenience of those in the public gallery. I'm not aware of anything, so I'm just going to continue on as per normal. Item number 12 on the same page is reports of committee meetings. That is nil. So then we go to page 44. We have officer reports. We have 13.1, which is CEO's office. 13.1.1, which is Western Australian Local Government Association, WOLGA, Annual General Meeting. There's a recommendation on page 46. There is a bit of yellow highlighting. Just wanted to check if there's on page 47, sorry, the recommendation is. Recommendation that nominates the Shire President and Councillor Williams, but if there's no other nominees as a proxy voting delegate if no other councillors attending. We'll just have to
I'm trying to get there, but I can't guarantee it.
or can we nominate Councillor Ryan? Yes, we can nominate if you go your proxy. That's all right.
Yeah.
So that'll just read Councillor Ryan.
Yep.
In there. So Councillor Mancelli is moving that.
Yep.
Councillor Hughes is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? Yep. Councillor Williams.
My question just is if there aren't enough councillors attending, if the CEO is actually allowed to be a voting delegate or not.
We need to check that. I have a feeling the CEO can be, but we need to check that. I think at this stage we put Councillor Ryan, who's indicating that he's able to attend.
So Councillor Mancelli moved that. Councillor Hughes seconded, if I remember rightly. Is there anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by show of hands? That's 6-0. That's carried. We now go to page 53, which I have to read out the declarations with this one. So this is 13.1.2, lease of Village Green, lot 14174 Fitzgerald Street, Northam. Councillors, Shire President Antonio, Councillors Mancelli, Ryan and Hughes have all declared an impartiality interest in this item. Each councillor declares that they will consider the matter on its merit and vote accordingly. The recommendation is on page 57. Councillor Hughes is moving. Second. Councillor Mancelli is seconding. Is anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by show of hands? That's 6-0, that's carried. We now go to page 80. So 13.2 is engineering services. 13.3 is development and community services. The first item is 13.3.1. Review of local planning policy 24, outbuildings in the rural, residential, rural, small holding and rural estate. There's a recommendation on page 85. Oh, on page 85. Councillor Williams is moving. Councillor Bigman is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by show of hands. That's 6-0, that's carried. We now go to page 101. This is the one where we've got a small change in recommendation when we get to it. So this is 13.3.2, review of local planning policy 19, residential design guidelines for the rural, residential and rural small holding zones. There's a recommendation in ours on page 105. Just wanted to, you can see just above the recommendation is a clause that's been added within that document. Can we just bring that up so council is aware there was an email actually made? Was an email sent with it in there. It was sent this afternoon, so I just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware of it. And just while we're looking for that, the clause was run by the officers, and the officers have agreed that this can be included, if I'm summing that up correctly. So you just wanted to do we just need a bit of a briefing on this?
I agree with that, President. Yeah, it's just really bringing in a reference back to the relevant clause of the local planning scheme in terms of modifying the building envelope, and then there's also some criteria in there for when people are making an application to modify the building envelope, what they need to address.
Yeah, thank you. And just that's information in the policy, but the recommendation remains the same, councillors. So just so everyone's aware. So we're very clear about what we're voting on. So then, if there is, I'll ask you, is there any questions? Is the right way to ask first? No, otherwise we've got the recommendation on page 105. Councillor Ryan is moving, Councillor Mancelli is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 6-0, that's carried. We now go to page 124. So 13.3.3, revocation of local planning policy number 10, developments of abutting rights of way. with a recommendation on page 127. Councillor Ryan is moving, Councillor Hughes is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by show of hands? That's 6-0, that's carried. Page 127, so we go to page 134, which is 13.3.4, revocation of local planning policy number 8, retrospective planning application and fees. There's a recommendation on page 137. Councillor Williams is moving. Councillor Hughes is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by show of hands? That's 6-0, that's carried. We now go to page 143, 13.3.5, renewal of local planning policy number 26, container deposit infrastructure, and there's a recommendation on page 145. Councillor Mencheli is moving, Councillor Williams is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by show of hands? That's 6-0, that's carried. Then we go to page 153. I do have to read out some declarations of interest. So President Antonio and Councillors Mencheli, Williams, Biglan and Hughes have all declared an impartiality interest in this item. All councillors declare that they'll consider the matter on its merit and vote accordingly. I'm just going to defer to Councillor Williams.
Yes, I'd like to move the recommendation as it is written on page 156, but foreshadow that I do actually have a foreshadowed motion should this be lost.
Okay, that's a foreshadowed motion. So what that means for the, just writing down foreshadow, it's taking me a while. So what that means for anyone watching online is if the motion is lost, then Councillor Williams' motion will be debated, as long as it gets a seconder. But if the motion is won, that's as per normal. Just so members of the public have got that correctly. Certainly can.
Just with regards, I've been thinking about this over the week, since the forum. If the gates are unlocked, how will they be secured, or headed, should I say, to stop the blowing wind, that sort of thing?
So defer to the officers.
I will still have they can have a chain around them, just
One caravan.
So there is a recommendation on page 156. Oh, I'm going to move it. Oh, sorry, Councillor Williams. Councillor Williams has moved. Councillor Hughes has seconded. Is there going to be speakers against?
Absolutely, Mr. President.
So Councillor Williams moved.
Yes, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
look, go to Councillor Williams first.
Yeah,
Has moved.
absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. President. I won't actually speak at this time, but I do reserve my right to reply.
Thank you. Councillor Mencheli.
Right. Okay. This came to council in May last year, and I'm a little bit miffed because looking at the title to the pedestrian access way, it is very, very clear. It is a pedestrian access way. And by definition, pedestrian access ways are for everyday walking or cycling, not motorbikes. Public emergency access way is a wider vehicular route used mainly by fire trucks and escaping residents during disaster like bushfires, which should be eliminated by the introduction of AusAlert. I have it on good authority from a reputable BFAC member that all fire appliances carry bolt cutters and angle grinders. The gates on the PAW should have fire locks, as I was informed. We have had peace on the 240 metre pedestrian access way for 14 months now. By unlocking the gates, there will be a resurgence of motorbikes and vehicles belting through the PAW, the public access way, by the way. There are only 2 dwellings immediately adjacent to the PAW, one at the Olive Road end, facing Olive Road, and one opposite the cul-de-sac on Brown Road, negating the need for consultation, as there's been no complaints received in the intervening period, to my knowledge. Accordingly, I recommend that the gates remain locked, and I urge my fellow councillors to support me with this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Mancelli. Councillor Hughes?
I don't think I've got anything to say. I believe. Yeah, sorry.
Is there any further speakers against? Any further speakers for? Councillor Williams, I'll refer to you as right to reply.
Thank you, Mr. President. As per the additional comment in the notes of the forum, the EMDCS stated that the land in question was vested as a pedestrian access way as part of the original subdivision of the locality. The previous resolution, as referenced in the current report, required the core to be upgraded to enable vehicle access for emergency situations. It is therefore interpreted by staff that the land is a core that also functions as an emergency access way. So there we'd actually asked for clarification and been provided with clarification. It is a core and an emergency access way. So originally we had unsubstantiated to this date claims of people actually hooting through their own motorbikes. All the people that have spoken to me from those surrounding streets have said that horse riders, pedestrians and school kids on bikes are the people that actually used it, not motorbikes. We've had no evidence at all since that time. At the moment we've had the gates, apparently it's been working fine. If we've had the locks off, who's going to know except the local residents anyway? We have a burden as councillors to represent the community at large, not one particular landowner or a small group of landowners even, but the community at large. The community in Wundowie requested that this did not happen in the first place. It happened, we've got the gates can stay, but I really do think, as per the officer's recommendation, that those gates should remain unlocked. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. So with that, I'll put Councillor Williams' motion. So all those in favour of the officer's recommendation on page 156? That's 4. All those against? 2. That's carried. Thank you everyone for that. That's all right because it was carried, so that's all right, Councillor Williams. So then we go to page 160. So this is 13.3.7 recommendations. Just a reminder that President Antonio, Councillor Mancelli, Councillor Williams and Councillor Hughes all declared impartiality interest in this item and declare that they will consider the matter on its merit and vote accordingly. 13.3.7 and the recommendations on page 164. Councillor Williams Councillor Mancelli is seconding. If there's no speakers against, all those in favour by show of hands? 6-0, thank you. Almost got to do it. So then we go to page 175. So 13.4 is corporate services. 13.4.1 is accounts and statements of accounts June 2026. There's a recommendation on page 177. Councillor Mancelli is moving. Councillor Hughes is seconding. Thank you, councillors. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands. That's 6-0, that's carried. Then we go to page 229. So this is 13.4.2 budget adoption 26-27. Now there's a number of recommendations. We did receive some information this afternoon. Just wanted to highlight, I know councillors are aware, but this is just for the general public, so they're well aware of what we're voting on. In the report, There is changes on pages 249, 250, 263, 264, 277, 322, 330, 331, 332, 334, 346, 350, 351, 352, 364, 388, 393, 401, 402, 411, 421, 434, 435, 436, 440, 458 and 475. In a summary, if the officers correct me if I'm wrong, majority of those relate to the reserves that we discussed last week. So it was amending the budget, so those funds are going to the reserve. Because the budget we received in preparation for the forum was before we confirmed the items. The only one of noting is on page 436. It is public knowledge. This is a new item for the estimated costs of the new CEO recruitment. So that's the other change. So yeah, that's correct. So it's an estimated cost. I just want to make public good point. And it's an estimated cost, so we're not sure. We haven't got that far yet. So, but as there's a number of new items, and we did have, there was one other thing which I might ask a bit of a briefing on. This is regarding the GRV and the Chamber of Commerce amount. Please.
Yes, thank you. So just in doing a final review of the budget, what we discovered when we calculated the rates in the dollar is that Council has previously agreed to levy a differential rate for commercial GRV to fund $127,000, which stays as a fixed amount for 3 years, so $127,000 per annum for 3 years. To fund the activities of the Melbourne Chamber of Commerce. When we actually did the calculation, we discovered that with the rate in the dollar that was included in the budget papers and that was advertised, we discovered that we would be generating too much revenue. So as a result of that, we have decreased the rate in the dollar that is in the budget papers, and we've made the necessary adjustments to the income as part of the statutory budget as well, so that that's reflected. We're in fact decreasing the amount. We did advertise the rate in the dollar, but it is a decrease from what we advertised, and we're not proposing changes to any of the other rating categories. So that's the explanation for the change that we made.
Thank you, that was a good explanation, because that clarified the question I would have asked. So that's good. But just to confirm, this is for the public, I know the answer. It's the special rate, or the differential rate, is for the chamber is continuing, so the chamber will still receive funding.
Yes, that's correct. I can't remember quite when the last year was. It might have been 2023 council, or 23-24 that council last considered this, and the arrangement that council agreed to was for 3 years. So we do review it every 3 years.
Thank you. So is there any questions or further clarifications, councillors, on that? Just wanted to highlight those couple of things so everyone's well aware. So then we go, and I'm going to have to make sure I get this right. We go to page 237. We've got 6 items early on. So we've got recommendation 1, and this is the adopts the annual budget, adopts the ICT, adopts the salaries and allowance, and adopts the also, that's the president and the deputy president of councillors. That's recommendation 1. Councillor Ryan is moving. Councillor Hughes is seconding. Is anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands. That's 6-0, that's carried. Then we've got recommendation 2, which is on page 237 and 238. This is curbside waste collection and a lot of other waste fees and charges. So do I have a mover and second for that? Councillor Manchilli is moving. Councillor Williams is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands. That's 6-0, that's carried. Then we have on page 238, recommendation 3, 238 and 239. This is a differential rates And the rates, do we have, of councillor Ryan? That's it. So just that amount up on the screen is the correct one, as we just had. Councillor Ryan is moving that, and councillor Mancelli is seconding that. Thank you for that. Is there anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 6-0, that's carried. That's number 3. Number 4 is on page 239, recommendation 4. And this is the amended schedule of fees and charges. There were changes in there, they were corrected and updated. So recommendation 4 on page 239. Councillor Williams is moving. Councillor Hughes is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 6-0, that's carried. Then on the same page, 239, recommendation 5. This is, I'm just reading that, approves the level to be used in statements of financial activity is 10, a percentage of 10 or a minimum of 20,000, whichever is greater. So, yeah, any changes? Yep. So Councillor Mancelli is moving. Councillor Ryan is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by a show of hands? That's 6-0, that's carried. And we're still on page 239, recommendation 6, municipal fund. Yes, and as amended to the budget with the new rates and model, because that's as per the CEO just advised us. Councillor Ryan is moving. Councillor Hughes is seconding. Anyone likely to speak against? So all those in favour by show of hands? That's 6-0, that's carried. And just a reminder, and the council is well aware because it's in here, members of the public, we needed an absolute majority of 5 with all those, so they were all carried as per the requirements, legislative requirements. So that is all of those. So then we go to page 485. So we have matters behind closed doors. There's a recommendation there on page 485. Councillor Hughes is moving, Councillor Mancelli is seconding. As a procedure, I'll put it straight to the vote. All those in favour by a show of hands? That's 6-0, that's carried. So we've got members of the public going out that I know Like we, grab the members of the public.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And Councillor Williams has linked to the item as I read the recommendation, we'll just make a note of that. That's all right?
When is it? Not that one, is it?
Not voting, not voting.
No, voting.
So, members of the public, members online. So we had a number of items behind closed doors. So 14.1 was Flackline Fire Shed Access, lot 750, which is 119 Birch Road, Mokai. The recommendation was the council approves the creation of an easement over the portion of land at lot 750, which is 199 Birch Road, Mokai, adjacent to the reserve 3214, for the purpose of providing ongoing access to the Flackline Fire Shed. 2.2 was authorises the payment of compensation of $8,000 to the landowner of A662, together with all reasonable costs associated with the survey, preparation, lodgement and registration of the easement. Item 3 authorises the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate the final terms of the easement and execute all necessary documentation to give effect to the easement. Item 4 authorises the affixing of the common seal to any documents required to create and register the easement in accordance with Council Policy 20, which is authorising documents and affixing the common seal. That was carried 6-0. Item 14.2 is legal action for recovery of unpaid rates. Just wanted noted, Councillor Williams did an impartiality interest in this item as well, which I did not read out during the item, so I just wanted to note that in our official minutes. There was a recommendation that Council 1 authorises the Chief Executive Officer to issue a property seizure and sale order on goods and land for A14343 in accordance with the Local Government Act 1995. Item 2 authorises the Chief Executive Officer to issue a property seizure and sale order on goods and land for A202 in accordance with the Local Government Act 1995. Item 3 authorises the Chief Executive Officer to issue a property seizure and sale order on goods and land for A25 in accordance with the Local Government Act 1995. Item 4 authorises the Chief Executive Officer to issue a property seizure and sale order on goods and land for A13089 in accordance with the Local Government Act 1995. That item was carried 5-0. So that item was carried 5-0. Item 14.3 is sale of land for recovery of unpaid rates. There was a recommendation that Council 1, pursuant to 6.682B of the Local Government Act 1995, Council authorises the Chief Executive Officer to dispose of A10694 without attempting recovery proceedings under section 6.56 of the Local Government Act 1995 within 3 years, because having made reasonable efforts to locate the owner, the local government has been unable to do so. Item 2, pursuant to 6.682B of the Local Government Act 1995, Council authorises the Chief Executive Officer to dispose of A11367 without attempting recovery proceedings under section 6.56 of the Local Government Act 1995 within 3 years, because having made reasonable efforts to locate the owner, the local government has been unable to do so. That was carried 6-0. Item 14.4 is rates exemption application. There was a recommendation that Council approves a rate exemption for land used exclusively for charitable purposes under section 6.262G of the Local Government Act 1995 to the Scout Association Australia, West 26, for the duration of their ownership of lot 28366 Great Eastern Highway, Burlong, which is A11706. That was carried 6-0. Item 14.5, tender of sale for A14486. There was a recommendation that Council 1 accepts the sole tender submitted by Ricardo Jorge Pinto Arruco and Isabel Cristina Loreno Coltujino for the purchase of lot A14486 for $24,000 excluding GST, 2, approves the disposal of lot A14486 in accordance with section 3.58 of the Local Government Act 1995. 3, authorises the Chief Executive Officer to execute all documents and take all actions necessary to give effect to the sale, including entering into a contract of sale, subject to the conditions contained within the tender submission. That was carried 6-0. Item 14.6, minutes from the Chief Executive Officer Review Committee held on 17 June 2026. There was a receipt of minutes, a recommendation that Council receives the minutes from the Chief Executive Officer Review Committee meeting held 17 June 2026, carried 6-0. There was a recommendations, adoption of recommendations. The recommendation was that Council 1, accepts the Chief Executive Officer Key Performance Indicator Progress Report from 21 March to 12 June 2026 as presented in attachment 6.1.1 of the committee minutes. 2, endorses the proposed process for the 2025-26 CEO performance review as detailed in this report. 3, notes the survey methodology and inclusion of supporting documentation. And 4, supports the preparation of a consolidated report for presentation to the Special Chief Executive Officer Review Committee meeting scheduled for the 22nd of July 2026 to inform the CEO performance assessment and development of KPIs for the 2026-27 period. That was carried 6-0. Item 14.7, which was minutes from the Chief Executive Officer Review Committee meeting held on 22nd July 2026. Receipt of minutes recommendation is the Council receives the minutes from the Chief Executive Officer Review Committee meeting held on 22nd July 2026. That was carried 6-0. Adoption of recommendations. The recommendation was that Council 1 receives the CEO 2025-26 Performance Review Report as provided in attachment 6.1.1 presented by KGW Advisory. 2, endorses the CEO 2025 Performance Review and notes the findings and recommendations arising from the review process, including that the Chief Executive Officer's performance has exceeded expectations. Well done. Item 3, or point 3, adopts the Chief Executive Officer Key Performance Indicators for the period 1 July 2026 to 30 June 2027, as outlined in attachment 6.1.2 of the committee minutes. And 4, defers Chief Executive Officer Remuneration Review for 26-27 to enable the Shire President to have discussions with the CEO following the 26-27 annual budget adoption, with the intent to be presented to the next Chief Executive Officer Review Committee meeting. And that was carried 6-0. So that was all of the matters behind closed doors. So then we go back to page 486 of our substantive agenda. So then we had item 15, motions of which previous notice has been given is nil. Item 16 is urgent business approved by decision, that is nil. Item 17, declaration of closure is made at... We did. Meeting is closed at 6:18 p.m. Thank you, officers.